My name is Jason Gleason. I'm the director of the Montclair Center Bid. Myself, along with Petya Morozov from DesignShed, which is the parent company of Montclair Design Week, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with in town, and also Carly Graham Garcia, who's the executive director of the Feliciano Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Montclair State University, have gotten together here to put these really great sessions together to be able to bring you guys, the business community here in Montclair at large, some information and some availability to sort of, we're all sitting on the same ship here, and now we get to sort of see each other and sort of work through some of these really large, amazing problems / opportunities that are ahead of us. Just a really quick rundown before we get started here. It looks like most of you are already complying, but if you could take a look in the lower left-hand side of your screen, you've got a little microphone icon and a little video icon. During the course of this webinar, if you could go ahead and please have your microphone and your camera off just to sort of help the flow here. Today we are going to talk about marketing and specifically marketing during this pandemic here. We've got a bunch of really great guests. We've got Robert Genovese, who's the owner of Local Coffee. He's also been a marketing executive for years and going to sort of bring his global savvy to us today. We've got Jessica Merrick, who's the founder and owner of Red Root Marketing, who is a local marketing firm in Montclair. And we are going to have Arlinda McIntosh, who is the owner, founder, skirt maker, general Montclairian de jour of Sophistafunk, talking about marketing today. There will be recordings to this for anyone who misses it or wants it. We're more than happy to send it out to you afterwards. And just by all means, go to montclaircenter.com. They will be archived there. It's archived in a few other places as well. And one last thing is I just want to encourage everybody to go ahead and if you can see right down in the middle bottom of your screen, there is a little chat box. There is a chat box on the side of this whole conversation, and we're just encouraging anyone today who has any specific questions, any bigger questions, any questions at all for any of our guests or anyone here facilitating, please feel free to write your question in the side box and we will get to them either during our conversations with our guests or afterwards when we sort of open it up to everybody. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Petya Morozov, DesignShed, and Robert Genovese. If you guys could turn your microphones and your cameras on, that would be great. And let's start talking about marketing.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you so much for a great introduction. And it's great to see you again, Robert. This has been a long few weeks for a lot of people, and I really appreciate the time that you're taking to join us today. I've had the honor of knowing you for several years now. I didn't meet you before we worked together on Local, but once I heard your vision for Local and how you imagined it serving the community and not just serving coffee, it was just a mind-blowing awakening to how businesses can have a larger mission in their community. And you called this appropriately local for a lot of reasons. And I just thought that we could just start out with what you had as your vision for how you wanted to present your brand, not just to coffee lovers, but to the community at large. Just tell us a little bit about that strategy that you were conceiving.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me and putting these weeklies together, because it's never been more evident that we're all in this together, right? You know, small business succeeds, we can glean some intelligence to other partners, and the thought of a thriving community is built on small business, right? So anything that we can share here that helps other businesses and helps each other is certainly a benefit to us all. I think growing up in a restaurant and being in hospitality gives me a bit more purview as to, how businesses can be created and succeed. And then having spent, some 20 years in marketing or so, you really get a sense that a business can no longer be created or succeed without the community intimately involved. So when we built Local, we did so really with a purpose of having not so much us talking about ourselves, but really focusing in on the community and picking a path, right? Certainly taking an aspect of our community that we could really focus on and spend some time with. And, for us, it was really arts and supporting the arts. We work with, different not-for-profits as well. But for us, it was really a matter of having some focus and having that really be the lead part of our communication.
And so just in the time that you've been open, and I think you just turned, gosh, was it 3 years already? Back in February?
Yes, it's actually, yeah, we're a little bit past 3 years now.
Yeah. And in that time, just how many events had you had in community events in your space?
Yeah, so it's been about 40 at this point. We donate the space to a local artist every month, and that's free of charge. They can use the space for, for their own purposes of driving awareness of what they do, or it could just be for gathering of their friends and people that support them. And along with that, there's a number of other ways that we can support them if people can't physically come into the space. There's quite a bit of commentary that we developed through our blog. And this way we can reach a community that is beyond just the geographical area.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things that's really powerful when we're able to walk back into your space again is just how not only is it just very comfortable to be in, but you do encourage people to meet each other and know each other. So it's just a very natural space to want to extend, just in the same way that you're extending a hand here to get to know each other. You do. I mean, it happens so naturally in your space, and I just
Well, it happens naturally, but also, and you'll appreciate this, by design, right? We have specific spaces in the shop where it's laptop free. And, we did that from day one, and we purposely didn't put outlets throughout the shop, as you know, because we wanted to encourage people to communicate with each other. Coffee is such a part of our, civilization and our society. And, especially being of Italian heritage, it's really a time and a ritual for people to come together. And it's not to say that shops that have outlets and, laptop policies are doing it wrong. It's just that, again, and especially for the purposes of this conversation, when we created this brand for Local, we wanted to do so very purposely. And part of that was to create an environment where people can come together. And if you have, distractions, and again, they're necessary distractions, we're living in 2020, but when you have those distractions, it's hard to cultivate that sense of community and people really coming together.
Yeah. And until we have that opportunity to come back into your shop and feel that vibe, which is it's very potent the moment you walk in. It feels like it's sort of like the bar that you once operated with your family in New York. When you don't have that, just thinking about how you've had to pivot in the last few weeks, when you don't have that, how are you yourself pivoting with that inability to gather folks in the way that you have? Like, what are your strategies? What are you testing out?
Yeah, so it goes without saying that, the hardest part of this business, our business right now, is that not having the community in every day. I mean, they're coming in, but it's become, or I should say it could become a transaction, right? It could be commerce, and it's very, lowest denominator. And that's not something that feels right. It's not something that, I think if we had to do long-term that we'd want to support. This was really built as, you know, an extension of the community and really pulling the community in, and not having that time with, you know, our clients and who have become our friends at this point has really been challenging. That said, I think we've really taken to heart as a team, you know, what does that mean for that, you know, maybe minute or so, because we're only doing one customer at a time. You know, what does that mean for that 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes with that person? And, you know, we've absolutely, I think, modified our approach, because in many instances, you know, and we always, you know, with great circumstance understand when people come into our shop that, you know what, they can make a cup of coffee at home. They don't need to come here. But, you know, we've really kind of reminded ourselves after being open for 3 years now, the importance of people coming in, and that time that we spend with them is so precious, right? I mean, it sounds a little campy, right? But we take it very serious in that, you know, if they're coming out of the house maybe once a day to grab a cup of coffee or go get groceries, you know, we want to make sure that they're okay, and you know, that you know, conversation and that connection, you know, we're really, not to say we haven't before, we absolutely do, but we just want to make sure everybody's okay. Oh, I lost you. Are you muted?
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
So I was just wondering if we can spend the next couple of minutes or so just zooming out and taking a look at not just what's happening globally, but also historically. I mean, this is you know, it's a crisis moment that you know, in the world of marketing, when we have this sort of event happening and affecting people in very different ways, how are marketing and how are agencies starting to reflect on this time? It's not like we haven't seen this before. This is also probably a question post 9/11, post Sandy. So what are some of the things that you're seeing, and is it any different from 9/11, for instance?
Yeah. So I think, you know, it's breaking it out into certain categories. You know, there's the operational part of your business, which, you know, if you are actively communicating, it's ensuring that it's done tastefully. And you guys are all, you know, online and watching television, you know, making sure that, and again, this is the operations side, just making sure that there's no unfortunate adjacencies to information that, you know, doesn't sit well with your brand. And in many instances, I've, you know, especially during agency time, you know, just turn off marketing completely because of the sensitive nature of what's happening. But, you know, if you do choose to continue communicating, which many brands are doing, I think it's also being careful and mindful that, you know, all the communication really kind of looks and sounds the same, right? Like, we're all home watching, you know, whether it's, you know, how you're getting your media these days, but, you know, a slow piano starts playing, and then that, you know, that voice comes in, and, you know, if you look at, you know, at the majority of commercials right now, they're kind of interchangeable, and there's not much of a differentiation between them, which means, in my opinion, that the brand really is lacking focus and hasn't really defined what they do enough that they could separate themselves from other brands. Now, that's just not during a commercial or during a communication, but it's in everything that they do. You know, the airlines are especially interesting right now, right? Because, you know, I think the overarching communication is, hey, we're all in this together. And if anybody's tried to get on an airplane with a bag weighing more than 50 pounds, you know that you're in it on your own, right? So we want to make sure that as a brand advocate, that you are constantly cultivating that brand to ensure that it's differentiated. But it really is an extension of, like what we did at Local, an extension of your mission. And, you know, there's that tendency to get bored with your messaging and try to change it or change the brand. And it's never been more important that you understand your brand, understand its mission, and ensure that all communication as a result of it is very consistent. And not only in what you say, but certainly what you do.
Thank you so much, Robert. This has really been a great way to start the conversation off, and it leaves probably a lot more things to say about this. So I hope that we'll be able to gather questions during this time, and stick with us if you can
Absolutely.
till we have some questions later. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm just going to mute.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you to the two of you. And again, I want to just encourage everybody who's watching, by all means, if you have questions, throw them in the question box, or the chat feature on Zoom. I'd like to introduce my Deputy Director, Anne-Marie Sekeres, and Jessica Merrick. Are you with us, Jessica?
Hello.
Yes, I am. I'm here.
From Red Root Marketing, which, full disclosure, the Montclair Center bid uses Red Root Marketing as our social media powerhouse. You guys do a really great job. So I thought it was gonna be really great to have you on as well today. But I will be quiet now, and I would love to hear your guys' conversation. Thank you for joining us today, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, Jessica.
Hello,
Everyone, I'd like
Anne-Marie.
you to meet Jessica Merrick. She is the founder and owner of Red Root Marketing. She has been in social media marketing space for 11 years. She created Red Root 7 years ago to help small businesses and nonprofit clients in North New Jersey. Jessica leads a fabulous team of social media experts that we work with at the bid, and is always seeking to lift up our community by helping local businesses and nonprofits connect to their customers in a meaningful way. Thank you so much for being here today, Jessica.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thanks to all of you for having me.
I know you work with a number of different clients across Northern New Jersey, including us here at the bid, on a lot of social media issues. In the past few weeks, what do you feel has been most effective in reaching audiences?
So I think the biggest thing is, I like to say it's authenticity. So, everyone's maybe not in the same boat, but everyone's experiencing some kind of strife. And so I really think it's important to be open and transparent, and also to stay connected with your audiences. And I have several different tips on how you can do that. I think that right now on your social media, the best things that you can be doing is showcasing and sharing information to which you have access. So there's so much information, it's overwhelming. But as you go through and as you have your own connections and maybe vendors or different channels of information, take some of that and synthesize it for your audience. I think that everyone has different ways of hearing things and interpreting things. And if you can do that in a really easy to understand way to your audience, that's really going to resonate. I think it's a lot right now about information. I think it's also about inspiration, showcasing other people that are doing good in your community. At Red Root, we really believe in hyperlocal social media marketing. And what we always say that means is that you're finding a way with your content, no matter what you're selling, no matter what product, service, no matter, if you're a nonprofit, showcasing your mission, whatever you're doing, there's a really special way that you need to find to connect with your audience in a hyperlocal way. And that's a two-way street. I call it social media karma. It's about putting out there what you want to get back and showing positivity, and you'll get that, showing positivity and support, and you'll get that back. So I think that right now that's more important than ever. Just even in normal times, that was a really important thing.
Can you give me an example of what you've seen recently that's worked that speaks to that?
Sure. So one of our clients, she's a very small business. She has a small team. She does insurance benefits for small businesses. And, so we do a lot of posts for her about insurance benefits, and it's, not, we try to make it exciting and interactive, but it's a lot of, kind of technical things. What do you need for your employees? When the pandemic started, we started doing, we had conference calls with all of our clients. How are we going to shift? What do we need to be talking about? What does your audience need to know? And we started doing some really interesting and fun posts about, because her audience is small businesses, we started putting up small business information, things that they needed to know. We started a series with her team called Everyday Heroes. We're actually conducting interviews with local businesses, not necessarily her clients, just people she knows from networking and in her community. We're conducting interviews, and what are you doing for your community? Send us, we're going to showcase you, and we're doing highlights, and that's a weekly event. So there's been a lot of really fun engagement and support. So she's showing support, she's getting support. It's, you know, it's this back and forth, and that's been a really interesting and fun account.
Okay, cool. I'm thinking right now of our small business owners. A lot of our business owners, you know, had their rhythm, had their staff, were working all the time, but still like had their schedule out for the week. Now everything's changed. Everyone's working triple, quadruple what they were working, try to keep up with things, try to reimagining things. What are kind of some simple takeaways that like our small business owners can use to kind of help maintain or beef up their social media right now and still reach their audiences?
So even in the best of times, you know, we work with a lot of small businesses who, you know, their social media is the one thing to fall to the wayside because you're doing everything else. You're, you know,
Exactly.
you're everything. You're wearing all these hats. You're, you know, a lot of solopreneurs, or you have very small teams. And in normal times and in times now, I say the best thing you can do for your social media is stay organized and plan it out. Normally, what we recommend is, you know, plan out your social media for a month. That's not possible right now. Most of our clients, we do monthly social calendars. Not right now. We're taking it week by week. So if you can even think at the beginning of the week, you know, what do I need to be talking about this week? I really recommend you have some kind of content calendar, and it can be very simple. It can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be a Word document, but plan it out. Don't try to do things off the cuff, even if you feel like you're doing things off the cuff. This will alleviate a lot of stress around what message you're trying to get out. So even if it's as simple as sitting down and saying, what does my audience need to know? What do my clients need to know about what's going on in my business this week? And actually, before we even start with a caption or writing out a post, a very important step is we write out the concepts. So you take the week coming up and you write a concept for maybe, and you know, give yourself a goal. I'm going to do 3 to 5 posts this week, which is what we usually recommend. In this time, I mean, it might be much more than that. You might have a lot more to say, and that's okay. But start with a goal and say, I'm going to put up, you know, 3 to 5 posts. And you write down a concept. So what does your audience need to know? Well, if you're a restaurant, they need to know, what are your hours this week? Are you doing takeout? Are you doing curbside pickup? What are you doing? What are your specials? What do they need to know? If it's a service that you've modified, let's say you've had to pivot away from certain services that you couldn't offer, that you can't offer today, but you've come up with something new. Make sure you're talking about that and it's very clear that this is something you're offering. So even though it might sound overwhelming to sit down and come up with concepts and then write the captions out and come up with a graphic, you're going to see if you do it once for the whole week, and you can always modify, change, do something off the cuff if you need to, you're going to see it's going to alleviate a lot of stress off of your content creation. And hopefully it'll become a habit for when things go back to a semi-normal time.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I would like to really add to that is, and I know it's something, you know, you and I have, you know, discussed in terms of the bid, is that, you know, where, you know, formerly before the pandemic, you know, I mean, we were in the age of Amazon and Prime. So if your friend had a birthday, you could just, oh man, I got to get something for tomorrow. We're planning out weeks. I mean, this weekend's Mother's Day. We've got graduations coming up. We've got Father's Day. I'm just sending that reminder out to all my businesses out there. Like, people are planning in advance and are getting very used to having to do things a week in advance for these kind of things, whether it's ordering food or getting a gift. So just
Instead of that
throwing out.
instant gratification.
Right. So that should be really part of everyone's, content calendars, is all these events coming up as well, because people forget, and then it's like, oh no, they can't get
And
right away.
that's the whole point, is that, when you're thinking ahead, even if it's just that week, it's not, now we're not thinking, we don't know what we're doing in June. Forget June. We don't even know what we're doing May 15th. But if you can just take the chunk of this week, what do your clients need to know? And that's what I love about the bid, how we've started this Gift Me Thursday. And, take it in digestible chunks, where, what do they need to know? How can they order from me today? How can, how can, open up that line of communication? Social media, it's been that way, where this is your lifeline, and you're going to get that support back. If you're pushing it out and you're saying, hey, this is how you can support us, people are looking for ways to support small businesses today. It's very important to our community. And so give them that way. If you're not posting anything on your social, no one can share it. No one can talk about it. I've seen so many people, businesses and personal accounts, sharing what other people are doing just to support them. They don't necessarily have a connection. Maybe it's just a place they like, or they've seen, or they know the owner, but you have to put it out there so people can grab onto something and share it with their contacts.
I totally agree. There's so much to talk about, but I want to get to it all.
Yeah.
One thing you and I have spoken about personally, and Petya and Robert alluded to it with 9/11, the idea of tone shift, where this happened and things that were kind of cool a few weeks ago all of a sudden feel really wrong.
Yeah.
And so where have you seen those tone shifts? Where do you think they've really been effective? What have you been seeing that's been doing that's really feels like it has, some energy to it?
That's a great question. So we basically, mid-March, we had written all of our clients' content for April, and we sat down, we did calls with all of our clients, and we rewrote the entire calendars. And we were rewriting posts daily, even for March, because and we really went through all of the content calendars and made sure none of it was tone deaf. Even an extra exclamation point here or there, or, the Happy St. Patrick's. I think the tone you want to strike, and again, it's going to differ from business to business, because you all have your personalities. You should have your brand voice developed. And if you don't, then this is probably a great time to do that. But what strikes me the most about the tones that are really working and resonating with people is, and you're going to say this makes a lot of sense, that you're engaged with your community, that you care, this empathetic tone, proactive, hey, we're out here doing this, we're making this happen, support us. How can we help you? So I have felt that those are the posts that have really resonated the most. And I actually want to use the Montclair bid as one of the examples, because we had a lot of phone calls with the bid team when this started ramping up. And, we were always there as a support to the more than 400 retails and companies in the Montclair Center bid. But we shifted very quickly into a channel. How do we get out all of our businesses information? How do we get out their promotions? How do we get out what they're doing? How can we support them? Gift cards, and I think that showing that support and that information and that transparency, I think that has really resonated. So I think that you can take that, that's obviously, you're supporting a large community of businesses all in one shot with the bid. But I think every small business and nonprofit can take that lesson and say, put out there, it's not just about your products anymore and showcasing, here's, it's about, what are we doing, or what are other people doing? How can we support these people? And that is, and making sure you're sharing that to your stories, and so that other people can share to their stories. I mean, it's a lot about this give and take. And I think, it's, I just, making sure your posts are written in a way that's very, very, that's tonally correct, and with your voice, still with your own personality. Don't change that brand voice,
Oh, I agree.
you know, stay in your voice and then just support.
I think that's perfect. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we've run out of time, but I hope you stay around for the questions at the end, because I have so much
Absolutely,
fun
I'll be
talking to
here.
you. Back to
Thank you
Jake.
so much for having me.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
Miss Arlinda, can I ask you to join us via video and microphone if you are available? You are.
Uh-oh.
Are you there, Arlinda?
Yes, I am, but when I press start video, it's saying that it's been disabled. The host has disabled it. It says the host asked you to start your video. Okay, so okay. There I am. Hi there.
Hello, Arlinda. For those of you on this call who don't know, this is Arlinda McIntosh. She is the owner and designer at Sophistafunk, the skirt company. She's also a social media influencer. She's regularly featured on TV shows and publications such as Kathy Lee and Hoda, Essence Magazine, and she's been in the New York Times plenty of times. Arlinda has a great relationship with her clientele as well as the fashion audience worldwide. And hello, Arlinda. Looking fabulous as always.
Hey, everybody.
So we're going to chat about marketing here today a little bit. I don't know if you, I know you were running a tad late. I don't know if you've gotten to see the last couple presenters here, but I just have a few questions for you specifically that I would love if you can share your wisdom. First off, so during this crisis, and I guess this is kind of piggybacking on the last question that was asked of Jessica, how are you deciding what to post or maybe what not to post? And how are you dealing with messaging for your audience, specifically when it comes to tone? Because I think that's something that's very important right now.
Well, for Sophistafunk, one thing I did not do ever is mention COVID or mention what do you call it? Will be inside quarantine. I didn't mention that because it's everywhere. We already know that. So, but for me, for my audience, I wanted to give them something else to think about. We know we have to think about that because we're there, but I just wanted to talk about anything else other than that. So generally when I'm making posts, my posts are, as you see, I don't really use models, quote unquote models, because that's not our reality. I like to speak to real people because I'm a real person. So not saying the models are not real people, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, so for where we are now, I felt for me, it was more important to give something funny. You know, I dance a lot anyway. So I may come on and say something inspirational, and I don't want to knock people over the head with that either. So sometimes I dance, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I show something new. I noticed that a lot of, this is my first time doing a meeting on Zoom. So okay. But I noticed, I heard a lot of people talking about it. So I thought, well, you know, everybody was talking about being home and being comfortable. So we started to live in sweatpants. Hello, the favorite skirt mother was in sweatpants for 3 weeks. So, but then I thought, well, I need my girls and my guys, because we have men too that wear our dresses. So I wanted people to feel comfortable at home, but still be able to roam around and still take a Zoom meeting. So I started to think of what can I do? What can I put up that'll make them feel comfortable? So I came up with a sweat dress. Now that's no major thing. Somebody else has done one too, but I did it too, and I did it my way, and it worked. So I got them to email me photos. You know, let's think of other stuff to do. Email me photos, let me put them up. Email me photos of you in your masks. You know, let's post those. And not to do another challenge, but just to do something different. So I send private messages to certain ones, to random clients, and get them to do stuff on our social media platform. So
you're inviting your clientele to join in on your social media presence. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what they're there for.
That is
so
really,
we can all have fun together. I mean,
yeah.
we're in, and I don't want them to feel like, okay, we're stuck inside. No, we're not stuck. We are in a sense, but we don't have. If you feed it, it's going to grow. So instead of thinking I'm stuck inside, well, what can I do while I'm inside? What can I do fun while I'm in?
So what have you done marketing wise that you feel has gotten the most response from your audience in the last couple months?
Oh, wow, that dress.
You could talk about the roll call posts.
The roll call. So I do a roll call every now and then. I do a roll call, and just to see where everybody is. I'll either do it on my Instagram or on the stories, or I'll send it to them directly. Because that's something that a lot of times we forget. They do have text messaging, they do have emails. So I'll just do a roll call. Email me. You can call me. If you're dealing with anxiety or what have you, there's my phone number. I'm a nocturnal person. So I've gotten calls at 3:30 in the morning and, with an apology. Oh, I'm sorry, but you did say that I could call. Because sometimes we need that in the mid, I had to pivot and think past 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 or 9 to 8. So I may be talking to someone at 3 o'clock in the morning, especially in where are they at in Detroit. I have a lot of clients there, and they take advantage of that. Do that, because you may need somebody to talk to just to get you through that moment. Because it was scary. It was a scary thing to feel like, wow, I'm in here. I'm on a main street, and just to be at night to hear nothing, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's scary. It's just something different to get used to.
It's a bit disconcerting, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I do like that you're acknowledging that. I have actually heard that from a lot of the business owners, is that this whole idea of moving online and moving to social and sort of moving in the direction that isn't your traditional brick and mortar, or supporting the traditional brick, is that online or social media is essentially sort of the actual city that never sleeps.
Right.
This has our businesses and our workflow has become almost on a 24-hour cycle. So it's I'm glad that you're able to acknowledge that. Is there anything that you're doing for yourself to sort of keep yourself sane during that point?
I dance a lot.
You dance a lot.
I dance a lot. And there's actually 2 DJs that's on pretty much all day. D Nice, and then from Black Girls Rock, Beverly Bond. So, and when they're not on, I go to YouTube, and I'm listening to that music throughout the day, because it keeps me in a colorful place.
Sure. So, okay, so coming back to questions here real quick. Are there new things that you have tried over the last couple months in terms of your marketing approach? Or is there anything you're planning on trying coming up here in the near future?
Well, one of the things that as far as marketing, I developed a game, and it's going to launch on Sunday. It's a handheld, you can use on your phone. It's a handheld matching game, but it's fun. It's fun. It's it's for anybody. It can be for any member of the family. But again, it gives insight to Sophisticated brand, as well as myself personally, as well as them. It'll help them to learn things that maybe they didn't know. Matching games, when you think of matching games, you think of children. But what are we other than grown-up children? So, and I like that too. I like, once we get to be adults and business owners and moms and dads, we forget that it's okay to have fun, to play. Because play is where the comfort is for me. I know I have my bills. I still have, like all of us business owners, we have our overheads and we have that. But if we pivot and do something else, maybe that'll make the transition easier. So the game that I'm doing, it'll be, I'm going to launch it on Sunday, and hopefully everybody will play and let me know. And what's going to happen is once you get to a certain amount of points, you can take a photo of your scores, and when you email it to us, then we're going to get some freebies and some fun stuff.
Okay, cool. So you're encouraging people to play the game, not only as some mental stress relief, but then you're also using it to market your business in almost like a giveaway. Yeah, okay. I like that. I have not heard of someone using a game. That's fabulous. I know you mentioned. Say again.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. I'm gonna get out of the car.
Sure.
Change my background.
I noticed that I remember you said 2 DJs that you for personal inspiration. Have there been any other posts, since you you live in that sort of influencer sphere? Are there any other influencers or any other posts, even specifically, that you've seen that have inspired you during this crisis here?
Posts. Well, I like one particular person in town. I like her, Dolly Moo. Her posts are always very whimsical, which is where I live in the Enchanted Forest. So seeing her post with her new products and also watching other business owners with brick and mortars transition into online, that's inspirational to me as well, because now, not that they're in my space, but it'll help them to see where we are. Like when you're online and brick and mortar, it opens up the door. And, you know, especially to a lot of people that are not familiar with social media, you know, it is the most fun place ever if you treat it, if you treat it right. If you're not treating it right, then it can be a nightmare. But for me, it's kind of like having the world right here in your right here in your hand. The world is right here in your hand. Why not speak to them? You have their attention. Now give them something to show them what you're selling. Show it to them in a whimsical way, in a fun way, in whatever way that your audience, is used to you giving it to them. The ones that you're right, you're face to face. You're still face to face here. It's like the Jetsons. Remember the Jetsons?
Of course.
Okay, so we're the Jetsons now. So it's taking advantage of all of this that we have. Zoom. It's really, for me, it's excellent. Even though this is my first Zoom meeting, I'm going to be playing with this too. I'm going to do a Zoom something with my clients.
Fabulous. So any other, before we open this back up, we got another maybe minute or two here. And I'd like to open it back up to the other guests that we had, because there are some interesting questions that have been coming in the group chat. Anything major that you've sort of taken away from this whole thing, or any light bulb moments that you have that you wanted to share that had specifically to do with marketing? I know that you've been making some masks, obviously, or I guess not obviously. Sophista Funk is making really awesome masks. I saw the pictures, they're fabulous. And I know that there are a lot of other businesses that are in the sort of clothing and tailor and in that who have been throughout town as well. But has there been any aha moments for you?
Yes, there's one thing that I just had a meeting, well, wasn't Zoom, but I spoke with people individually about mask, not etiquette, I don't know the right word, but basically I've noticed, I had a client recently, and when she came to me, she had her mask on, but she pulled it down and it was just sitting here. That's not good, because what I would like to say to us as mask or face cloth wearers, because that's where we're going to be for a while, is that while we're selling them, for me, let me say me, because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm telling you what, how to market your product. But sure. For me, I try to let them know this is what you want to do when you're wearing it to keep you safe. So you consider your nostrils a vacuum cleaner. Your nostrils and your mouth is a vacuum cleaner. And your mask is the filter, like what's in your air conditioner. So as you inhale, you're sucking everything against the front of this mask. And then when you go and you touch it, you're putting everything that's on the front of this mask wherever you're putting it. The worst thing that we can do is bring it down below your nose, because now you're inhaling whatever's on the front of the mask. So what I started recently with 2 or 3 clients at a time, we'll FaceTime, and I just go over those things for them, how to take it off, how important it is to have more than one, so that if you do go out and you go to a place, and let's say you go out to eat, when we go back out to eat, how important it is to take that one off, turn it within itself, so that, how do we say, so that the dirt that's on the outside, or the germs, you tuck it on the inside.
Okay, so you're almost, so within the sale of your product here, you're also giving back almost like a PSA, which I think is really helpful, because I know that in discussions with a lot of business owners, when everybody's sort of thinking about this, how do I reopen? I know there's a whole checklist and a whole myriad list of things that need to take place here. I know there's been a lot of people expressing sort of not so much the fear of themselves being in their business, but the general public coming back in who may not know some of these things, or aren't wearing a mask, or whatnot. So I think that's actually really helpful. I'm going to encourage you to make a little video, maybe demonstration about how to take care of your mask, and we'll go ahead and proliferate that for you as well.
I will. I'm going to call it because Jason asked.
All right, fabulous. Well, thank you very much, Arlinda. I'd like, if you can keep your mic and your video on, and if I could invite Jessica, is Robert on still? Yeah, if I could invite Jessica and Robert back on the call with us here. And in fact, Petya, would you like to join? And Anne-Marie, maybe would you like to join as well? We can have there, look at the whole panel together. Fans back together. So we've received a couple questions that have specifically to do with cross-promoting. So if I can just like run these points down real quick. I've heard a number of like sort of very repeated ideas here. The community. There's the, and within the community, then there is this sort of like idea of banding together and cross-promotion, which is specifically what this question is about. Have either of you tried doing any cross-promotion yet with other companies, whether before or during COVID? Do you see this as sort of a necessity moving forward to be doing cross-promotion, either with like businesses or even businesses that are completely different, but you know, yourself as owners are sort of linking up in that headspace? Like, do you find that this is going to be necessary moving forward?
Anybody want to go first?
How about Robert, since you went first last time?
All right, thank you for that. So what's interesting is that during this time, unfortunately, a lot of our partners had to close operations, and you know, it creates supply challenges on our end, you know, to be able to continue to have the integrity in the product and what we share here at the shop. But what's interesting is, you know, being part of the community, right, and just stressing that piece as well, it's allowed us to find partners that we wouldn't have, not to say we wouldn't have, but we wouldn't have come across them as quickly as we would have based on necessity. So, you know, one of the things that we did is we looked to the restaurants that we, you know, go to eat ourselves all the time, and restaurants that, you know, we have really enjoyed over the past several years. And it was as simple as a nuanced conversation of, you know, we're missing X, Y, and Z right now, and do you have the capability of making this product? And you know, we've really been able to cultivate a few new relationships that, again, are on brand. You know, made sense for them because their business is struggling, our business is struggling, and it's given us the opportunity to work with, again, like-minded brands that perhaps we weren't necessarily working with immediately. So in that case, I think, you know, just a little bit of resourcefulness, a little bit of courage, right? Because in many instances, some of these other businesses may be competitive in some sense. But I think, you know, again, and then just to echo something that I had said before, it's never been more evident that we're all in this together.
Sure. Jessica, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I think I had seen someone had put in the chat, you know, is this going to be something that's, you know, the future? I mean, I recommend this to anyone any small business owner or nonprofit that comes my way, whether it's client or consulting or just, networking. I think it's really important when you're doing social media, especially when it's hyper local and you're trying to really connect. If you're a global brand, maybe it's slightly different how you would go about it. But I think most people in our communities, they're running small businesses where they're trying to connect with their, at least most strongly with their network here in North Jersey, or in the tri-state area. And I always recommend doing cross promotion. I mean, it doesn't have to be for every product, but I think that, again, it's that social media karma where, you're showing that support. People want to support businesses that show support to other businesses. I think it's a really powerful thing to do, is to connect. And I mean, there are so many ways, and I think probably Arlinda does this a lot, is on Instagram, you can look up other people who have similar brand values so easily because you're following their content, you're seeing what they're putting out, and sometimes it's so enticing and you like their message and it's on brand with your message that if you reach out to them in a DM and you say, hey, I would love to do something with you. It can be an event, but it can be so many different things. That can take so many different forms. And I think that's what's so exciting. And I really think everybody should doing it. No matter what business you're in. I mean, we work with mortgage brokers, we work with insurance, we work with retail, there's so many different, and I think everyone can do it. Even if you don't have a physical space, I think there's a lot of cross promotion. So I think you should think of cross promotion as something that is, it can be a giveaway. It can be an Instagram giveaway. It can be, but I do think you want to be careful about who you choose when you're doing cross promotion. You want to, again, have it be another account that aligns with your brand. Because then I think that's when it's most effective.
Okay. And Arlinda, I'd love for you to weigh in a little bit as well. For those of you who don't know, Sophie de Funk had existed in the Park Street Market, which was already a marketplace. You already were existing in a space where you were co-branding, you were co-marketing.
Yes.
Can you give a little bit of insight on how that was working for you and how you see
that? What was good about it and what's great about cross promotion, and I mean, a lot of times that unlikely person is the best person.
Betsy or Anne Marie, I wanted to open it back up too. If you guys had any more questions, we do have Betsy, do you have another question you'd like to ask the?
Well, it's great to have all of you here. And I can't help myself but want to sort of be more future thinking, because somehow that seems to be the horizon of hope in one way or another. And having all of you here, what would you like to see Montclair as a town, as a community? How would you like to see Montclair market itself to the world, and how we got over or got through COVID? What would you like to see that message sound like, look like? Now that I've got you all here, wondering, scratching our heads, but I wonder if we could start to build that messaging already. Maybe, yeah, like where would you go with that? Big
Rob?
Question, I realize, but
I can. Oh, go ahead, Robert.
No. Okay. So, I grew up in New York City, and having come to Montclair about 15 years ago, several of the factors that were critical in us coming here are, it's a diverse community, which, I had grown up with, in New York City. There's arts, abound, right? We have our own museum. There's a music venue. There is a complexity to the town as well, relative to the people that live here. So, in many ways, it's, it's what you wish for. It's what you dream for anywhere that you live, right? Hopefully, people that are sane. It for us, I think it can demonstrate for other communities how, such people with such different backgrounds and diversity can come together and do so successfully. And we're going through these some really challenging and tough times now, but some of those issues and many of those issues will still exist throughout our country when we come to a better place. So I think if we're going to articulate anything outside of this town, it's how beautiful things can be when we respect each other's differences versus point a finger at them, and how we can come together as a community when things are not ideal, and certainly when things are better. Now, we're not perfect, right, by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think really we can say anyone is or any place is, but those are the kind of underlying currents that really make me proud to be in this community. And I think that's part of what can be communicated out as Montclair as a brand within itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Jessica, you wanted to add to that too? And then we actually kind of got to wrap it up here pretty quick, but I'd like to hear what you wanted to say.
Sure. It's very short, but I think, and Robert covered it very nicely, but I think that's exactly it. I think if we can, and I like Petya saying, let's already start thinking about that. And I think the messaging is, we all came together and we were all there for each other. And that's the message, and that's what people are saying afterwards. And so you build that, and I think you weave all of these things together. And I think that's through social media. I think it's through these Zoom calls. I think it's through these new relationships and connections that people are making. And I think if we repeat that, we did something with the bid. We started using the hashtag Montclair together. I think coming up with little taglines and little things that kind of, they bring us all together. And I think if that's our message, then I think it's psychological. And so that's what people believe, and that's what they see, and that's what they're seeing when they're scrolling through their social media. So I love building the foundation for that now. And so maybe coming up with even a design for Montclair Design Week, something like what graphically does this look like? That everyone came together and got out on the other side. What does that look like? And I'm not a graphic person by any stretch of the imagination, but I would leave that to the designers. But if there's a graphic, if there's a tagline, if there are hashtags, and have the whole community kind of start using those, and that is the brand. And maybe that's, I think Montclair's always done a good job of really branding themselves. And there are the different disparate sections, but I think coming together as a town and saying, what do our values encompass, and how do we, talk about that?
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Well, it looks like we're kind of running out of time here. Arlinda, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that question, or you're muted?
Yeah, I was muted.
No, you're good now. You're good.
Oh, she kind of said it, what I was going to say. Like, it would be good if we had, kind of like, what was that? That little train that could, the little engine that could, or whatever. Sure. Something in that feel like, the town that banded together. So, I would gladly help come up with some kind of graphic. I had an idea when she was talking, and then what's, what Robert was saying about how diverse, Montclair is. So to come up with something that could, like a pen, or like something that is ours, and when you your person when you see them. Oh wow, they have that pen on too. So yeah, they are part of that town that connected, that is together. They are one big bond, like one big what do you call that? What's that place where everybody's all the different United Nations? Oops, yeah. I forgot, but like something like that. But I'll get into that later, because I'm a talker, and I could be talking, and it'll be tomorrow.
I got you. Well, thank you so much, Arlinda. And I want to thank all the panelists. I think this was really good today. I wanted to give a quick recap of some of the sort of talking points that I feel like we're sort of overlapping. So like specifically about your social media marketing, I'm hearing that having an authentic voice in your content that's very specific to your brand is a must. Planning ahead and building out your content strategy in advance is uniquely important. Having a consistent presence, obviously, on social media is very important, and focusing on your concept and the news and sort of, you know, what story is important now and what story is important now that is sort of relating to your business, or how can you sort of piggyback with the news and find unique strategies to sort of be in that atmosphere, to not only be sort of giving the news, but also giving your brand with respect to it. I'm also hearing over and over and over again, which I love so much, community, 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 community. So as a sort of like call out or a call to action to everyone who's on this call still, make that phone call, make that email. You know, I know it's tough, and I know there's not a lot of time, and I know there's a lot of stress out there, but if you see somebody and you like something that they're doing, or you identify with their brand, or you feel like your brand and their brand could be great together, there's really no harm in just sending that email and starting that conversation. I think it's become one of the most important things that I've been seeing happening within Montclair, which obviously I think is an incredibly special place, and there are so many great people here. And I do believe that we're uniquely situated to sort of all jump on the same boat together, and sort of find our way together as a community. But please, by all means, if you have questions, if you have comments, now's the time to share. Now's the time to make those connections with other businesses, with your clientele base, with anybody out there who's looking, searching for you. So with that being said, thank you so much, Petya, Carly, Robert, Jessica, Anne-Marie, and Linda. This was a great talk today. I want to let everybody know that if you want to sign up and get registered for the next Montclair Mondays that's coming up, please feel free, go to montclaircenter.com. There's a registration form there. You will get a link for Zoom meetings, and you'll also get the opportunity to suggest topics. Let us know a little bit about your business and where you're at. Please feel free to share that information. And next week's topic is going to be focused on the reopen, reopening your doors to the new norm, and sort of steps that each industry are possibly going to have to take, time frames, major stressors, major areas of concern when it comes to sort of reopening our doors to the public and getting back out on the street. So thank you so much for everybody for joining us for these. I think they're really, really great. I really enjoyed this week's Zoom meeting, and we really look forward to seeing all of you again next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. So thank you all, everybody.
Thank you.
And we will see you very soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.